So this is a very, very important issue. So I ask in my book, I use the Chinese sinogram, is this a crisis or is this an opportunity? Clearly, if we don't do anything about this, this will really be a crisis. The question of providing skilled workers and talented people to do the sorts of things that Canada needs to run effectively and to pay its bills as a nation has to be addressed in a way that makes sense to everybody. But nobody really knows what this means, and we can't address the situation of Canada's shortfall in skilled workers and so on from immigration. It's just not possible. It makes the most sense that we focus on young Aboriginal people and provide training to them, because they're already here. They're in most of the areas where a lot of the activities are taking place. And for the first time, the study that was done by the Centre for the Study of Living Standards in Ottawa tried to measure the value of educating Aboriginal people. And the study concluded that the best case scenario, which was cumulative until 2026, that is if the current population was educated to the same level as everybody else and received income parity, Aboriginal people could be contributing over $400 billion to the GDP of the country, which is enormous. But I think this is just the tip of the iceberg as far as the wealth, the actual financial wealth that Aboriginal people could contribute to the country. If you look at the assets of Aboriginal people, just the northern tribes, who have, I think there's 22 of them, that have their treaties already settled, those treaties impact over half the Canadian landmass. That's over 5 million square kilometers and is bigger than most countries in the world. The amount of wealth that could be generated from Aboriginal nations is enormous. Of course, all of this must be done in a context of sensible environmental development and sensible development from the point of view of communities. So what this is leading to, I think, is what I call a perfect storm of opportunities, particularly for northern groups. And I'll just play this little clip.
For the first time, a perfect storm of circumstances is coming together to provide the opportunity to move Aboriginal people up the social and economic ladder in a manner that preserves the dignity of all concerned and benefits the entire nation. There must be a return to the simple tribal and human values that spawned the complex and beautiful Indigenous cultures in the first place. In effect, a contemporary reclamation of the lost tribal values and social DNA. Although it certainly might be helpful if more remnants of Indigenous cultures were still in existence, we do not have to turn back the clock in order to find the still pristine emotional legacy of our ancestors. Stressing the importance of social interconnections and the necessary interdependence of families, tribes, or nations, or to recognize the value of self-reliance, high moral conduct, loyalty, self-sacrifice, and leadership. This renewal must be done in a modern context, in constructive partnership with the larger society. So there are
I believe there are incredible opportunities if you're aware of some of the things happening in the global economy. You look at the situation that Canada is in. I was just in South Korea not too long ago. South Korea has a landmass about the size of Vancouver Island, probably not as big as one of your lakes around here. They have, I believe, around 50 million people, and they have a GDP of 11th in the world. I think Canada's around 7th or 8th. And I think largely the reason for that has to do for them has to do with education. But for Canada, we have 10 million square kilometers of land and 33 million people. The world is hungry for resources, particularly some of the developing Asian economies, and we're in a position to provide some of those resources. And I understand there's all kinds of mineral activity and so on going on in this area. But I think we have to look beyond what's currently being done, and we have to look beyond these impact benefit agreements where we're offered jobs and some business opportunities, and look to actually owning and profiting from the resources that are being exported out of our traditional territories. At the end of the day, we're the people left with the environmental and other consequences of whatever takes place in our territories. And one of the things I'll talk about a little bit later is how we can use current a financial model that we've developed to be able to provide the finances to do this. And of course, certain sectors like mining, there's going to be huge shortages of educated people and skilled workers. There should be more jobs than our young people can fill if we employed everybody. In a lot of the northern areas, I've been involved up in the Northwest Territories. They've used up all of the employable and educated Aboriginal people very quickly. From one diamond mine over the years, just from their IBA, they've extracted over $1 billion in business opportunities and employ just about all the Aboriginal people they can get. And they've just opened 2 more new diamond mines, and there's several more already being opened. People know about the huge shortages of labor in the oil sands, and now there's huge shortages of labor in Saskatchewan, which used to be considered a have-not province. So this kind of thing is developing, and I think it's an enormous opportunity. I was a keynote speaker at the Prospector and Developers Association conference last year, and I used this little graphic to explain the resource control of the Northern Comprehensive Claims Groups, just so people could understand how big half of Canadian landmass was. I put in the little graphic of New Zealand over there, not to insult New Zealand, but just to give you a comparative idea of how enormous that landmass is.